Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Breaking the Law with Eddie Law on Spreaker.com and Spreaker app. I am your host, Eddie Law. Thank you for joining us tonight, or joining me tonight. I like to say us. I don't want this to feel like a one person thing, right? But you know, it is a multiple person effort for the fact that people have to listen. So you know how it is. But anyway, thank you for being with us tonight as we talk about what we love the most, which is sports. As always, you can reach out with questions or comments, concerns, funny little things you want to say, insults, as will surely come at some point, I'm sure. You can reach out on Twitter at ELAW31, that's ELAW31. On the chat, little chat spot on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. Or call in on Breaking the Law's phone line, the BTL phone as I like to call it, 602-903-3906. It is now open. Call in. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Sports, life, news, politics. Although people, I've actually gotten a couple complaints about the politics thing, but it's all good. It's my show. I can say whatever I want. All right, on tonight's show, is LeBron becoming irrelevant? The King returns in the UFC's bantamweight division. A legend returns, but do we really want to see him back? And one Super Bowl champion wishes he had never played football. But first, let's talk about some real life stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard about this Flint water crisis. Flint, Michigan, really tiny town, notably known to a lot of people, really for being the hometown of one. Now I forget his name because I'm not a big fan of this guy. The guy that made Fahrenheit 9/11. Michael. What was his name? Hold up. Michael Moore. Thank you. Michael Moore, right? Good morning, Andy. Shout out to the UK. My good friend. So, that's his hometown as far as I know. He actually did his first, I think, bowling for Columbine. He started off in his hometown going to a Walmart there or something. But anyway, this whole thing with the water crisis in Flint. Apparently, the water is so contaminated with lead that it has led the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to label it as toxic waste. You know, the worst part. I mean, obviously, the worst part is that people's health is being affected, right? I mean, the things that have been reported as happening to people as a result of drinking the waste, range from people's hair falling out to the water causing rashes on people's skin. On top of it, 10 people have died from what's called Legionnaire's disease, which is a form of and this is I read this on Wikipedia, but and that's where you can get your you can't quote Wikipedia on like essays or thesis papers or anything, or thesis statements or anything, but Wikipedia basically gives you kind of like the overview, right? So Legionnaire's disease is a form of atypical pneumonia. Some of the symptoms are coughing up blood, diarrhea, vomiting, and that's just some of it. There's a whole long list of symptoms. Scary stuff, And now, I was wondering about the name. It turns out it got its name back in 1976 when an outbreak of pneumonia began, broke out among people at a convention of the American Legion, which is basically an organization for veterans who were honorably discharged, and also current personnel of the armed forces who served in previous wars such as World War I, World War II, the Korean, Vietnam Wars, and other conflicts. So, of the 182 people who were affected in that outbreak, 29, and most of them were men. There were some women, but most of them were men. 29 died. So, when that bacteria was discovered, it was named Legionella. So anyway, President Obama has declared a state of emergency on Saturday, and that released $5 million in federal aid to the city to help with the health crisis. Now, here's what bothers me the most is there's people that are supposed to be in charge of keeping an eye on the whole state, but on the city as well. The mayor, I don't even know the mayor's name, but that dude needs to be dragged outside and made to gobble up as much of that water as he can possibly hold, right? For not raising all kinds of health with the state, and everyone's calling for the governor's job. I think his name is Rick Snyder. The Michigan governor is Rick Snyder, yeah, and they're calling for his job, and some people are calling for his head. Some people are calling for him to be put in prison for this because it's risking people's lives, and it really is. On top of it, I read an article earlier today that Some of the residents have claimed that they're still getting charged up to $200 a month for this garbage. Now, we need to figure out exactly what's going on. They need to figure out what's going on with the water situation. That's key. Obviously, key to life, water, right? And they need, I don't know what exactly happened. They need to investigate it as soon as possible. First, fix the problem. Obviously, investigate how it happened. And then the governor's got to quit. He said, by the way, he already said he's not going to resign. All right. So please believe he's not getting reelected. All right. People are definitely paying attention to this. And on top of it, the guy had the balls to blame the bureaucrats for the problem. Like, dude, it's your state. That's on you. The buck stops with you. With the whole country, the buck stops with the president. Right? But in your state of Michigan, the buck stops with you. So it's on you, Rick Snyder. And if I was him, I would resign and move as far away from Michigan as I could. All right, because please believe people who got affected are really upset. Andrew Reed, give me some schooling on this. Says Legionnaire's disease hides in water tanks. That bacteria hides in water tanks. Okay, well then that explains a lot. Then as far as how it happened, how it happened to get in everyone's water. All right, let's talk some sports here. Now, I just want to get that out of the way because I read that and it really, really burned me. Because if you're in public office and you're in charge of people, you ran for that office and you're in charge of people's well-being, and just the basic, just make sure that people have the basics, right? And you can't do that as a governor or as a mayor or in your position of leadership. You should be fired. You should be let go. That's it. It's over for you. You messed up once, people died. 10 people are dead. That's on you, dude. Why? Because the buck stops with you. Now, please believe the lawsuits are going to fly everywhere, and as they should. You know what I mean? But number one concern, obviously, is people's health. And to get everyone healthy, especially children that may have been affected. It honestly annoyed me enough to where I couldn't look up any more articles on it. I read like 3 articles, and I was just so annoyed by the whole thing. Annoyed as in annoyed with people that call themselves leaders that run for office, especially amid this political, presidential race that everyone, there's a debate every other night. Everyone's calling each other out on stuff. Everyone calls out Hillary on Benghazi. Everyone calls out, Christie on being fat. All this other stuff. It's just, we forget why they forget why they're running for office in the first place. They forget. And I don't know how this became a whole thing about presidential elections and political, but let's move on to some sports here. All right, in the NFL, you guys remember Jim Schwartz, former Detroit Lions coach? Did an awful job for like 5 years with them. Well, he's been hired to be the new Eagles defensive coordinator to brand new Eagles head coach, former Kansas City offensive coordinator, Doug Peterson. Exactly who? Nobody knows. Very few people know who Doug Peterson is. Anyone, very few people outside of Kansas City and outside of people that work for the big sports networks know who Doug Peterson is. I guarantee Eagles fans were like, who's Doug Peterson? And they just got tired screaming. They just finished screaming about Chip Kelly getting fired. So a little background here on Mr. Jim Schwartz. He was a defensive coordinator for the Titans from 2001 to 2008. If you're paying attention, that's the year after the Titans went to the Super Bowl against the Rams and lost by literally like a yard. One of the most heartbreaking Super Bowls I ever seen, for real. It was just that whole Titans sideline just crumbled over in tears. It was just so sad to watch. Then Schwartz took over as head coach of Detroit from 2009 to 2013, where he went 29-51. So clearly, the guy's not a leader. Tied together, you can't be a leader. If the men under you, they're supposed to play and be in the trenches and fight for you and kill themselves and run through walls for you to win games. They're not doing it. You're not a leader. If you're not looking over your players and finding out who they are, what they're good at. And by the way, Schwartz was rumored. It's rumored. Obviously I never met the guy, but rumored as being that kind of guy who really wasn't in touch with some of his players, right? Some of them did like him, a lot didn't, right? Which is why a lot of players ignored him. If you lose the locker room, you lose the team. So let's talk about, everyone's seen those commercials, the DraftKings, the daily fantasy sports, websites, right? They're apparently they're illegal in some states. I knew they're illegal to play. It's illegal to play. It's considered gambling in the state of Arizona where I'm at. But Texas just recently declared it illegal as well, joining the other 6 states that don't allow daily fantasy sports. There's a couple others that are challenging it. New York and Illinois are the ones of note, of notable size, I guess, because Chicago's a huge city. It's a big sports town. New York is a huge sports state. They got the Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, New York Giants, New York Knicks, New York Rangers. They got a lot of sports over there. That's a big state that likes sports, and so they're challenging the legality there. But Texas declared it illegal, calling it gambling. And I think what they're arguing is that it's not a skill-based game, that it's a chance-based game, which is what they don't like, right? You can be skilled at certain things, and they'll call that legal, right? But they call illegal the daily fantasy sports because they don't believe it's a skill-based thing, which honestly is completely wrong. I played fantasy sports before they made it, completely legal here, daily fantasy sports, and you have to know who you're picking. As far as, for example, when you do daily fantasy sports or MMA, you got to pick fighters. You got to know what they're good at, and if they have a good matchup against the guy they're fighting. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. If you got to pick an underdog, you gotta know what they're good at, whether they can expose a matchup against somebody that's considered a favorite, such as the people that voted for or that bet on Holly Holm in Vegas and cashed out big time. So daily fantasy sports is going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. I mean, Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, already said, "Hey, I'm cool with it." He said he's fine with it. He wants to, he didn't see a problem with it at all. Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, is cool with it. It's just it's a weird, and honestly, it's a stupid thing to even be talking about. They should be legal. It's not gambling. It's really skill based. And I believe the people that are making it illegal are just trying to make a name for themselves. What do they call it? They call themselves attorney generals. Those are the people that are in charge of fighting stuff like this. And I call them bored. That's what they're just trying to find something to put their names on, put that on their resume to be able to move up to the next job. Sticking on football here, you guys remember Ray Rice, former Baltimore Ravens running back? He's going to be coaching players at the NFL Players Association Collegiate Bowl. And why do we know Ray Rice? Because he was the one who was caught on video on the elevator knocking out his then girlfriend, now wife, by the way. She married that dude after he knocked her out. He knocked her out with just a crazy right hand. And honestly, the only reason he got in trouble is because he's been shunned by the league because he was cut by the Ravens right away. The NFL banned him, and he's available now to be re-signed, to sign with any team. But no one looks at him; they shun him because that's to be seen doing it is is really bad. But apparently, accounts from somebody, for example. Greg Hardy, defensive end, Dallas Cowboys, he threw his girlfriend, allegedly threw his girlfriend on top of a bunch of long guns. We're talking M16 AKs type of firearms. He threw her on a bed full of those, okay, and beat her up, left her with bruises, black eyes, all that. Allegedly, of course. But he's still in the league. In fact, with the Cowboys last season, I believe his head, Jerry Jones, called him a leader. And I was like, well, what? You're going to keep that guy. But Ray Rice, the only difference is they saw Ray Rice do it. There was video of Ray Rice. If there was video of Greg Hardy, please believe that guy would be nowhere near a football field at all. If there was video of every single, athlete that has been accused or even convicted, charged, whatever, with domestic violence, if there was video, then please believe they would never be there again. It's an image thing with the NFL. It's an image thing. We'll keep Greg Hardy, who clearly has a temper issue. I mean, any little thing set that dude off. And we saw it, at the games. He nearly got in a fight with his own wide receiver, over one little comment. But we saw Ray Rice in the elevator knock his now wife out. He took the steps to change everything. He's been doing all good things, all the right things. Now he wants to make a positive difference with young players. But forget that guy because we saw him do it. It's a weird world we're in. Weird world. It's all about PR. It's all about image. It's all about looking good, sounding good, having people like you. It's that. It really is. Now, I'm not saying Ray Rice doesn't deserve to be shunned. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you're gonna treat him like that, you gotta treat everyone that's done that the same. The ones that have been, of course, convicted of it. Now, I stopped reading up on Greg Hardy whether he actually got in trouble for that or not. Okay, but if he did it, that's messed up, and he should definitely be in trouble for it. On the next story here, the Chargers. That's the currently San Diego Chargers. To the little update here on that. Of course, last week we learned the St. Louis Rams are now the LA Rams. They will be moving to LA, to Inglewood, to a new stadium. The San Diego Chargers are the other team that was allowed to move to LA. And with them, it's an option. So they have the option to go. So they haven't ruled out the possibility of staying in San Diego, which honestly they should. San Diego's a good sports town. They got baseball, they got football. Right now they got football, they got baseball. It's a good sports town. 2 pro teams, you get to go. It's the reason that people haven't been going, and the city hasn't really, wanted to help them build a new stadium. Is one, not everyone has a bunch of money just to throw around at a stadium, and citizens don't like to be taxed for billionaires' stadiums. That's one. But the team's not good either. The team's kind of garbage, Especially this season, they were awful. However, it comes out today the Chargers have filed for trademarks on 2 phrases: Los Angeles Chargers and LA Chargers. So it makes a lot of people think that the Chargers have decided that they will move to Los Angeles. I've always thought that they would. As soon as that I heard they have the option to go, and I think they do. I think they will. I think they will move. And I don't think we'll see him in San Diego, in a couple years. I think we'll see him in San Diego next season. But season after that, I believe we'll have the LA Chargers. And honestly, that's sad. I hate seeing cities lose their teams. I know Andrew said in the last show we talked about, or last week, one of last week's shows, that it's really difficult to move a team in Europe. It's apparently really easy to do it here. All right, so I was talking about concussion problems in the NFL, in football. It's really weird to hear from a Super Bowl winning player talk about they wish they never played football, in the first place. But former Washington Redskin and also Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Antoine Randall L. If you remember, he was a wide receiver in the NFL. He was actually one of the better college quarterbacks in Indiana. But he ended up transitioning to wide receiver because in the NFL he just wasn't going to make it as a quarterback. But he said recently in an interview with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that he regrets playing football now that he's 36 years old and dealing with daily physical and mental issues. In that interview, he said that he has trouble just going down the stairs, and the quote that I read on that interview was, quote, that he has to, quote, come down sideways sometimes, depending on the day. Going up is easier actually than coming down, end quote. Now, like I said, Randall L was an elite quarterback prospect in Indiana. In fact, he was able to throw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl to win. That guy's a legend in Pittsburgh. In the NFL, he's a big name. So Randall L says he would, if he could do it over, he wouldn't have played football. He'd have played baseball. In fact, he got drafted by the Chicago Cubs right out of high school in the 14th round. Mind you, there's so many first round baseball draft picks that don't even make it. So 14th round, players are long shots. But he didn't play baseball because his parents said, made him go to college. They wanted him to go to school. He went to Indiana and, went on to the NFL and did all the things he did. He talks about he has problems remembering things. His wife repeats things to him over and over and over again. And, she has to tell him, she tells him, hey, I just told you that like 5 minutes ago. And it's a scary thing for a guy like that. Athletes have an ego, have this pride of they're supermen. They're unstoppable. They're invincible. Go through your career, you're 36 years old, you got kids, and all of a sudden you can't remember where you parked your car. You can't remember, something you did the night before you can't remember in the morning. So it got me thinking. Because, look, the number of kids playing football, pee-wee football as we call it, has been dropping since at least 2010. That's the last time that's the furthest back that I found an article of people saying, of the numbers dropping. And even, in fact, I'm pretty confident, the years before that, the numbers started coming down on kids playing football, because that's when all the things about, concussions and CTE. And if you haven't seen that movie Concussion, I haven't yet. I'm gonna go see it this week for sure. So I'll let you guys know what I thought of it. My buddy from Crossbones MMA, Jesse Rubalcaba, said that it's really good. So I'm taking him at his word. I'm gonna go check it out. But the number of kids playing football is just falling. It's plummeting. Meanwhile, the numbers of kids playing soccer, basketball, baseball, those are rising. And other sports, swimming, martial arts. In fact, martial arts is exploding around here. So, concussions, future physical and mental problems, they're real issues that parents are not looking at. And you got to decide whether it's worth putting your kids through that or not, just to play football. In the middle class, that's going to be the case. Parents are going to be picking. They're going to be like, I don't know if I want to play football. In lower income families, lower income households, kids that are in the hood, kids that that are in really bad situations, that are athletically gifted and could do something in football, you're going to keep getting those kids. Let's think about that. You're going to keep getting those kids. Very few parents in that situation are going to be like, no, you can't do that. Sometimes, and a lot of my friends who were growing up used to tell me, like, hey, man, the only way we're getting out of here is through ball, that's football, basketball, baseball, or rapping, or dead. Those rough neighborhoods, man, it's hard to tell a kid, no, you don't have that option. Because of concussions, because of anything. So, it's really beginning. And the NFL has such a passive aggressive approach about it. The one reason I'm very weird about this concussion movie is because the NFL was involved. There's a lot of things that I've read about that they actually were able to talk the movie people into taking out. And I don't like that at all. Because that to me is the NFL looking out for their own interests. That's just on the movie alone. The passive aggressive stuff. I mean, they settled on Randall L was part of a lawsuit that was actually the NFL actually settled, and the lawsuit alleged that the league did everything in its power to hide the issue and mislead players concerning the risk associated with concussions. If you look at the history, didn't they do everything they could? I just said a little bit ago about players like Ray Rice and Greg Hardy. It's about image. You can't be looked at as the organization that doesn't care about former players who have, mental issues. Junior Seau would have turned 47 today. Junior Seau would have turned 47 today. That guy committed suicide years ago because of CTE, allegedly CTE. He shot himself in the chest so they can examine and study his brain. We're talking about a legendary linebacker for the San Diego Chargers for most of his career, almost all of it, and ending it with the New England Patriots. One of the best to ever play linebacker. One of the smartest football players out there. One of the toughest football players out there. Would have been 47 today had it not been for the repeated concussions that he suffered. Do you think the NFL really wants that image? Of course they don't. So Randall L. made a point about kids playing football that I really liked. And he said this, quote, and again, this is from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article, which you can find on their website. He says, quote, the kids are getting bigger and faster, so the concussions, the severe spinal cord injuries are only going to get worse. It's a tough pill to swallow because I love the game of football, but I tell parents, you can have the right helmet on, you get your perfect pads on, and still end up with a paraplegic kid. And he's 100% absolutely right. It's a risk. And parents are going to be thinking about it. They really, really are going to be thinking about it. But still, football's never been bigger. People that say that baseball is still America's pastime are 100% dead wrong. Baseball is nearly dead in the U.S. Football is taking its place. It's America's new pastime. It's what every kid wants to be now, football player. So let's move on here to I'm going to be breaking down the two conference games this entire week. Of course, for the AFC, New England and Denver are playing for the right to go to the Super Bowl to face the NFC team between the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. So let's talk a little bit about the Patriots versus the Broncos here. Now, home field advantage is huge, right? It's home field anything for any team is huge. In basketball, home court advantage is big because you get the last game of if it goes 7 games, it's a best out of 7, right? In basketball in the playoffs. So you got to first one to 4 wins. Takes the series and moves on or wins the title, whatever. If you make it to 7 games, that 7th game on your home court, huge. I mean, nothing bigger than that. In football, it's really big, but it's especially big in this matchup for one guy. Peyton Manning, look, his quarterback rating at home in the playoffs is 97.9 his career. On the road, he's 51.5. That's a huge difference. Meanwhile, on the other side, Tom Brady's he's weird in Denver. I was looking up his record in Denver. He's played 8 games in Denver. He's 2-6. Something about Denver gets to Tom Brady. Now, with Tom Brady, you always expect him. He's like the Superman of football, to where no matter what happens, even more so than a guy like Peyton Manning. No matter what happens, if your team is down 3 scores in the fourth quarter, you just feel like he's going to bring you back. You feel like he's going to pull something out of his butt to score a touchdown when he needs it. Get the team into field goal range. Do whatever he has to do, short of, getting in there on defense and getting a sack or anything, or a pick, to win you the game. But in Denver, he's a question mark. Now, what helps them? Julian Edelman. He's back. He's healthy. He was healthy this last game. He changes everything for this Patriots offense because he gives them a very reliable receiver on third down with good hands and and he's very tough. Dirty, some would say, especially after that play on the kickoff where he wasn't even receiving the ball. But tough. Anyway, but what everyone wants is what are the Patriots going to do? How are the Patriots going to beat the Denver Broncos? Surely they're going to go after Peyton Manning, right? Wrong. Patriots are going to go after the running backs. Surprised? Why? Think about it. Why would you go after Noodle Arm Manning, who every football he's thrown in the last year almost has sailed on him? It looks like he let it go too early. It sails. The ball doesn't have the old Manning torpedo spin on it anymore. So what do? You go after the running backs. You make them a one-dimensional team to where for the entire game, all you do is stop the run and force Manning to sail footballs over you. Make Manning beat you over the top, and that's not going to happen. Not this Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning with the Colts, Peyton Manning before this neck injury that he had, this nerve injury that he had that just completely messed him up. He would have destroyed you if you stopped the running game. I mean, they got and won the Super Bowl because of him when he was with the Colts. He is nowhere near the same guy. His arm is nowhere near the same as it was just 2 years ago. Now, what did the Broncos have on their side? They already beat the Pats this year. It was with Brock Osweiler, and Osweiler played decently. 23 for 42, got picked up 270 yards over the air, a touchdown and a pick, and then in overtime, the running back C.J. Anderson, he had that crazy 48-yard touchdown to win. To win in overtime by a touchdown, the way that C.J. Anderson did was just crazy. Now, keep in mind, in that game, the Patriots did not have Edelman or Danny Amendola, and they're going to have both of them healthy, ready to go, and big old Rob Gronkowski ready to go as well. Now, you could say that the Broncos are playoff tested with that game versus Steelers. That was rough to watch, to be honest with you. The Denver receivers dropped a whole lot of passes. I mean, the receivers just could not catch the ball. And that's what the Steelers' awful secondary, okay? They played a little better this last game, but just there was just drop passes everywhere. It was like Denver was like, please, Pittsburgh, beat us. Now, to me, the question mark is this. Can the Broncos get the running game going? Can they find a way to get the running game going even when the Patriots are going to be loading up that box, meaning basically clogging up any hole in the O-line for C.J. Anderson and Ron Hillman? Can they find a way to get the running game going? If they can, they have a good shot, in my opinion. They have a pretty good shot at winning. But if they can't, I don't think it's close. I think it's a touchdown game. Maybe more. Can Peyton Manning bring back some of that magic and get the Broncos to the Super Bowl? We're definitely going to find out. Now, here's a little fun little tidbit on that game that I found. To me, it was funny. Broncos defensive end Antonio Smith, former Arizona Cardinal, longtime Arizona Cardinal. Actually, he was drafted by the Cardinals in the 5th round, I think. He said that Tom Brady is a crybaby. And in fact, he said that's a fair label for Tom Brady. And he kind of made sense because I've never seen Tom Brady get sacked and not look at the ref looking for a flag. He looks at the ref like he wants to know, what just happened. It's really weird with Tom Brady. I'm not saying Tom Brady is a wuss or he's weak or anything. Okay, but to me it's hilarious because I can see what Smith's talking about. So expect the trash talk to start to start going between the Patriots and the Broncos. In fact, I'm pretty sure Rob Gronkowski came out with one just a couple hours ago on a tweet, but I can't find it. If I find it, I'll make sure to pass it on to you guys. I got to take a real quick break here. When we come back, fights in the NBA, people getting fined left and right, and why people are saying LeBron is irrelevant, or at least one sports writer is saying LeBron's irrelevant. Could it be because of Steph Curry, or is it because of LeBron James? All right, be right back right after this break. This is Breaking the Law with Eddie Law on Spreaker.com and Spreaker app. Back here on Breaking the Law with Eddie Law, Spreaker app and Spreaker.com. Hit me up on the chat on the Spreaker, on Twitter at ELAW31, that's ELAW31, or on the Skype, what I'm calling the BTL phone line, 602-903-3906. So, literally a minute ago, I was looking at Facebook just for a quick second, and, well, now 3 minutes ago, John Bones Jones, former light heavyweight champ, UFC, tweeted or posted a little video of him shadow boxing or just throwing really hard punches. Okay. With the caption, 13 weeks until showtime. Maybe Mr. Jones is throwing a little hint here on when he's fighting next. 13 weeks? What are we at here? We're on January 19th. We're second to last week of January. So we're talking mid-March, nearly the end of March. It's 13 weeks, I believe. 13 weeks. That sounds somewhat close to the MSG date, isn't it? I believe it is. Let me look that up real fast. That'd be interesting. That he's just putting it out there like that. That maybe he just believes that much. April. Okay, so the date for UFC over there is April, which I believe is much longer as far as weeks go. It's longer than 13 weeks. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I counted wrong. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway. End of April. Thank you, Andrew. See, I'm doing like 15 things at once right here, trying to find information for you guys, and I count calendar wrong, which makes me feel really stupid now. But appreciate the help there, Andy. So end of April. So all right, that tells you he's 100% certain. He's very confident that we're gonna get to see him in the UFC in New York. That'd be interesting. Maybe he's breaking some news, kind of, maybe hinting at it. I'd love to get John Jones on this show. I really would. Just ask him, and if he, now that he's actually honest, right, and he actually says what he's thinking, supposedly, be really nice to get him on here and ask him some questions. Why'd you run? Did you really go back for cash, or did you go back for your 8-ball so you wouldn't go to prison? The people want to know. All right, let's talk some quick NBA stuff here before we get to the juicy MMA segment that I have here. It's gonna be good, so stick around. So in the NBA, Matt Barnes has been fined. Matt Barnes of now the Memphis Grizzlies, formerly of the Suns, Clippers, Lakers, the Warriors. He's played for nearly half the teams in the NBA. So he's been fined $35,000 for inappropriate comment, according to the NBA, for inappropriate comments he made about former Lakers teammate. By the way, they were teammates. Former Lakers teammate and former friend and current New York Knicks head coach Derek Fisher. Now, what was the comment? So I was wondering what the comment was, right? Turns out the comment was this, and it was in a long line of quotes that he had, but the NBA fined him $35,000 for this line right here. Violence is never the answer, but sometimes it is. End quote. The rumor is that Matt Barnes, who was with the Memphis Grizzlies training in Los Angeles in preseason, because obviously, teams go to different cities, to get their teammate, their players away and kind of trying to get them isolated so they can get some chemistry going. Take them to different cities. So they took them to LA or El Segundo, somewhere around there. And so I'm hearing something here. Oh, gotta take another real quick break. Apparently, technical difficulties back. So give me 1 second. I'll be back here in a couple minutes. Shout out to Passion Hi-Fi for those instrumentals. Apologize for the little break there, fellas. Apparently, or everybody listening, apparently, if you leave your keys to your family, they will welcome themselves with their with your nephew to your place, which I don't mind at all. So, but it was very unexpected. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Matt Barnes allegedly beat up or got in a fight with Derek Fisher at his ex-wife's house. Well, obviously, one of Matt Barnes' kids lives with his ex-wife, and he called his dad. He called Matt Barnes and said, "Hey, mommy's friend Derek's here." Matt Barnes didn't like that. First of all, you don't date your teammates' ex-wives or ex-girlfriends or whatever. You just don't do it. Even if it's a former teammate, I don't think you should do it. But that's they're grown men. That's for them to figure out. But Matt Barnes, being Matt Barnes, drove all the way to his ex-wife's house to supposedly check on his kids and got into Derek Fisher, which he was fined for, by the way. They fined him for that too. So they fined him for that, and they fined him for saying that sometimes violence is the answer sometimes. NBA doesn't like comments like that. Remember when I said about image? NBA, they've been trying to clean up their image. Back in the 90s, the fights were just flagrant fouls. These days, fights are 75-game suspensions. If you guys remember that, the Malice in the Palace, when what's his name? Well, right now he goes by Meta World Peace, formerly Ron Artest, when he was still Ron Artest, playing for the Indiana Pacers, shoved he overly fouled Ben Wallace, and Ben Wallace didn't like it and shoved him. They got in a fight on the court. Keep in mind, this is in Detroit. The folks in Detroit aren't weaklings, and they're not going to take any kind of garbage from anybody. There's like a million songs called Detroit versus Everybody, all right? Ben Wallace didn't like it. They got in a fight. Somehow the fight, here's the thing. While the refs try to figure out what to do, Ron Artest lays down on the announcer's table, and somebody with a pretty decent arm from the stands lands a beer right on him. I mean, there's video of it. The cup just flies, lands right on Artest. Artest jumps over the table, runs up the stands. Somehow he must have seen who it was, and just starts wailing on the guy. By the way, it turns out he beat up the wrong guy. The guy he was supposed to beat up was right next to the guy he was beating up. Honest mistake, I guess, but he still whooped on that dude. And it started a brawl between players and the crowd. I mean, Steven Jackson went up there with former teammate of Ron Artest in Indiana, ran up there and started fighting people that were hitting Ron Artest because they got in. It was a melee. It was one of the most embarrassing events for the NBA that's ever happened. So these days, even mentioning any kind of violence will get you suspended or anything. And everybody that was involved in that fight in Detroit was suspended for just a ton of time. Ron Artest was suspended for the rest of the season, if I remember correctly. Steven Jackson was suspended, but a couple of the Pistons guys were suspended. Police were talking about charging them with. In fact, I think somebody did get charged. I'm pretty sure a couple guys got charged with assault. So the NBA, like I said, everyone cares about their image, UFC included. You know what I mean? But the NBA, thinking about their image, don't want people to think they have thugs. You guys remember Allen Iverson, 6 foot, honestly one of my favorite players to ever play the game. Rough around the edges, didn't care what anyone said, would say however he felt, dressed the way he wanted to. People said he was a thug. People said he dressed like a thug because he had cornrows, a baggy shirt, jeans, FUBU, whatever, chains, and they were like, he's a thug. So what does the NBA do? They changed the dress code to suits. Now, they've been pretty lenient on it recently. I mean, we see guys like Russell Westbrook wearing pajamas to a game. They're going to start reeling that back, by the way. Please believe they're going to start doing that because they're like, all right, we don't want to be thugs, but we want to be professionals too. Why are you wearing pajamas to the game? All right, so I was talking about there's a sports writer that said that LeBron James is on the verge of becoming irrelevant. That's Kevin Dean, NBA senior writer for Bleacher Report. Now, people that just read the headline, that's the headline right there. Here's the headline. Humbled by the Warriors yet again. LeBron James on the verge of becoming irrelevant. Now, when people read that, some people read it and didn't even bother reading the article. And they were like, "Oh, what are you talking about? LeBron's the greatest player on the planet. He's this, he's that. You know, what is wrong with you? Whatever." Read the article, ladies and gentlemen. Always read the article. Don't be like BJPenn.com, who, you know, doesn't even read anything and copy paste whatever they want, and then try to clickbait you into going to their garbage website. Okay, but basically what Kevin Ding is talking about is LeBron James is as irrelevant as we've ever known it because he's not a selfish guy. But he's also, you know, here's the thing, he's not as dominant as we're used to seeing a star. Remember Michael Jordan was playing? The guy was dominant. Hell, in the last series they had against the Jazz, where, you know, the shot, where he pushed off a Russell, you know, we pushed off a Russell, crossed over and hit that wide open shot. That whole game, Michael Jordan had been beat up. He was the only Bull that was actually doing anything. You know, through the first 3 quarters, he kept them in there. He kept them in the game. In the fourth, you know, it was him that got the steal. It was him that hit the shot, won the game for the Bulls by himself. He dominated. Michael Jordan dominated the game up until he played with the Wizards. So when you look at somebody like LeBron James, and everyone thinks, oh, because LeBron James has got to dominate the game. LeBron James is more like, first of all, everyone is so obsessed with trying to find the next Michael Jordan. First, it was Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's the next Michael Jordan. No, he's not. He never was. Kobe Bryant is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is a legend in his own right. To compare him, to try to compare him to someone else is honestly, it's disrespectful to me, in my opinion. You know, LeBron James was immediately compared to Michael Jordan right away. Now, was it kind of his fault? A little bit. Where's 23? Came out right away into when he got drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, wearing number 23. Went to Miami, wearing number 6. Now he's back with 23. You know, if you wear the number 23, you're trying to say something. And that's just a thing about the NBA. If you're wearing number 23, you better be able to bring it like a number 23. If you wear 23 and you're a garbage bench player, you better change your number because you will be criticized. That's just what it is. Michael Jordan changed number 23 into something special. So everyone sees number 23 on LeBron James and they think, oh, he needs to be dominant, you know? But he's not that kind of guy. He's a guy that passes. He's an unselfish guy. He passes the ball in clutch situations. We've seen he was so criticized. So he's been criticized so many times for passing the ball at times where people think he should be the one taking the game winner. Whether or not that shot is made, by the way, he still gets criticized. Oh, should LeBron not pass the ball? Is he garbage in the clutch? And he's proved everybody wrong on all those points. So here's my thing about this whole LeBron is irrelevant. LeBron, first of all, he's never going to be irrelevant. But he's not going to be a guy that's going to dominate the game unless he absolutely needs to. When you have guys like Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, and you're finally healthy for the first time since the three have been on the team, signed to the team, this is literally one of the first times that they've actually been healthy. All three of them. Kevin Love separated his shoulder in last season against the Celtics, ended his season and his playoff season. Then Kyrie Irving, you know, blows his knee against the Warriors, leaving LeBron James by himself. LeBron James is trying to figure out how to play with Kevin Love, a healthy Kevin Love, how to play with a healthy Kyrie Irving. So believe me, Steph Curry is the headline right now. He is the best player right now. But don't sleep on LeBron James. Everyone said, "Oh, you know, Kevin Durant's doing big things in Oklahoma City. He's gonna overshadow LeBron James." Couldn't do it. Oh, James Harden's gonna do it. He couldn't do it either. Anthony Davis is gonna do it. He's the future of this league. Hasn't played worse in his career, or at least his team hasn't done worse in his career so far. Maybe they've done worse, but they're pretty bad right now. And they have a team that should be contending, not contending, but should at least be contending for the playoffs. And they're not even doing that. So irrelevant, LeBron James is not. But is Steph Curry just insanely playing out of his mind basketball? Absolutely. Steph Curry and LeBron James, just real quick, not really comparing them, but let's see the differences here. Obviously, one's a lot bigger, one's smaller. LeBron James is an athletic freak of nature. 6'8", and can move the way he does is insane. Steph Curry, meanwhile, about my height. Maybe a couple inches taller. Okay? But he's quicker. His skills. He works on his dribble before the game. He works on his crossover before the game. He's always working on something. He's a guy that isn't super athletically gifted. But he put in the work. That's why people love him so much. And he led a Warriors team, full of people, full of players that everyone thought were nobodies to the championship. If you remember when Steph Curry first started his career in Golden State, ankle injuries derailed his first few years. People were saying, "Oh, he's a bust. He's not going to be good at all." Well, them ankles got fixed pretty good, didn't they? And now he's killing it. I think he hit like 7 or 8 threes last night alone. So as the Warriors show goes on, you start wondering, what's going to happen with LeBron, and nothing's going to happen with LeBron. LeBron's going to be fine once he figures out how to play with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving and be effective. Have all three of them be effective. You'll start talking about LeBron James again. Please believe that. When the playoffs come up, you'll be talking LeBron James again. Don't worry. All right, going to take a real quick short break. Going to come back. We're going to talk about MMA. Big fight announced for a UFC event in Brazil in May. Big fight? Kinda. But it does mean another fight's going to be made with 99% certainty. A legend returns. Do we really want him to come back? Please. I almost want to ask him. Like, I'm going to send him a tweet at some point and be like, dude, please don't. And he's going to ignore it. He's going to ignore everybody and do it anyway. Eye pokes, people losing weight, gun-shy people, and, of course, Dominick Cruz. On the other side of this break, this is Breaking the Law with Eddie Law on Spreaker app and Spreaker.com. Oh, man. So, well, first of all, welcome back to Breaking the Law with Eddie Law. Spreaker app and Spreaker.com. Make sure to hit me up on the chat here on Spreaker. The BTL phone line, 602-903-3906. Hopefully I'm giving you the right number. Hang on a second. I don't want to sound stupid now and give you the wrong number. You call someone else. Yeah, 602-903-3906. And on Twitter at ELAW31. It's ELAW31. So somebody on Facebook just sent me this link here. If you've seen Andrew Reed goes trippy Indian music interlude. I know. Again, shout out to the Passion Hi-Fi for making beats. The guy's really good at what he does. Definitely go check him out on SoundCloud. But someone just sent me this thing on Facebook. One of my friends. It's about making a murder. Turns out, people online pointed out a new little piece of evidence that makes a little bit of sense. I'm not sure how it could help him, but it's definitely weird that nobody else caught it after months of working on the case. There's a picture. Look, if you don't know anything about it, I apologize. Go watch Making a Murder ASAP, just like right after this show. Just first of all, you're gonna watch one episode and end up just binging on it, okay? But the victim of the murder in that documentary, Teresa Halbach. There was one piece of evidence they found, and you can find this on the ladbible.com. Now, I'm not sure how super reliable or how non-TMZ-ish this thing really is, but if it's true, it's kind of crazy. The ladbible.com has this article on there, and there's a picture of Teresa Halbach, which you see a million times in that documentary, a million times, and it shows the key for the vehicle that they found in Mr. Avery's trailer. Interesting thing about this picture, they zoomed in on it and people started pointing out there's more than one key on it. That's a key ring. There's keys on there. Why did they only find a single key in Avery's property? And it's crazy. Avery's trial defense lawyer from 06, Jerry Buting, was actually speaking to Rolling Stone about it. And he said, he had this quote. He said, quote, Dean and I worked on the case for 14 months before that trial. The last 6 months of which I did nothing but work on this case. We had 25,000 pages of discovery and police reports to go through. We had hundreds and hundreds of hours of tape recorded phone calls and interrogations and aerial footage, every salvage yard and expert opinions. But we were only two minds. What I'm discovering is that a million minds are better than two. Some of these people online have found things with a screenshot of a picture that we missed. There's a picture of the murder victim that I've looked at 1,000 times that shows her standing in front of her vehicle, the RAV4. She's got a camera in one hand and she's also got keys. It's like a key ring. You can see there's a bunch of keys there, like a house key, probably a photography studio key, maybe her parents' house key. And those were never recovered. Instead, we found a single key. Now, we did challenge about that, about how unusual it was. Why is she walking around with one key? But I don't think I caught the fact that there was a photograph showing what she really carried around with her is a bunch of keys. And none of those keys were ever found. Now, I wonder if they can actually, and that's the end of the quote, sorry, end quote. But I wonder if that could actually, if that would actually make a big difference at all. Because, I mean, there was some evidence in there that was just incredibly awful, that should not have helped the prosecution whatsoever. And that crazy, weirdo small town did not care a single bit. It was, I don't know. It's stupid. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna help him. I really don't. I think at this point I've lost all faith in him ever getting out. Whatever your opinion is, whether he did it or not. I mean, as far as from the evidence that I saw, he didn't do it. The nephew definitely didn't do it, right? But who knows? But I wonder if that's gonna help him at all, because I would love to see that. Andrew Reed on the chat on Spreaker saying no evidence would have made a difference to that jury. I agree. Or that judge, by the way. Both judges, all the judges involved in that case were awful. All of them were awful. Just evil people, honestly. They're broken people. Those small towns, man, you don't want to get in trouble in a small town. You definitely. I'm so glad I'm from a big giant city in Mexico, and I lived in LA, and now I live here. And it's all big cities. Because small towns, man, all those weirdo people stick together. They all know each other. They all dated each other's sisters, or they dated their sisters, and then they're just friends with everybody else. It's just a really creepy thing to do, or to deal with if you ever get in trouble in a small town. Forget that. And they want to say Mexico's scary. Nah, I'm less scared of Mexico than I am of little small town Wisconsin. What was the name of that town? I even forget the name of that town. I don't even want to remember that thing. But so yeah, it's not going to do anything. But recently, Avery did file an appeal. So I wonder if maybe they can include that just as some kind of doubt to throw in there. But I'm with Andy. It's not going to help. I don't think it's going to help at all. So Anyway, I say we're going to talk about MMA, so let's talk about MMA. Andy's saying, I come from a small village and I can confirm we are all weirdos. Well, being weird is not super bad, only when it's like that kind of weirdo. Like someone's wife, or someone's husband works for the sheriff's office, and it all goes downhill from there. All right, so UFC Fight Night 81, or what I was calling Fight UFC Boston, Dillashaw vs. Cruz, went down on Sunday. Before we get to that, and I go through all the results and everything, a few little things I want to talk about in that event. Just announced about an hour and change ago, Vitor Belfort versus Jacare Souza for an event in Brazil on May 14th. Now, what? That's cool, fun fight, awesome, yay. More importantly, that to me nearly guarantees a rematch between Rockhold and Weidman. I believe we're gonna get that fight again. We're going to get that rematch, and I don't see it going any different, to be honest with you. A sick Rockhold beat up a Weidman who said who's supposedly healthy and had an easier weight cut than normal. What's a healthy Rockhold going to do against the same guy? So we get Vitor vs. Jacare in Brazil on May 14th. Looking at the UFC website, I can't really find an event. Usually when they have these events, they have them. They have the actual event posted on their website with just the only fights that have been announced, and they have nothing for Brazil yet. But apparently, May 14th. They have a May 8th in the Netherlands, and then of course July 9th, UFC 200 in Nevada. Now Andy just said exactly what I was thinking too. He said Rockhold versus the winner of Anderson Silva versus Michael Bisping. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. But I think they gave him Weidman. I don't know. I just have a feeling we're going to get Weidman in there again. But I would love to see him against the winner of Silva Bisping for sure. Which more than likely is going to be Anderson Silva. I hate to say it. I like Michael Bisping. I really do. Here's a weird thing. I actually saw people on Twitter calling him a bum. Calling Anderson Silva a bum. And I'm sitting there going, how dare you? Yeah, he tested for positive for steroids and whatever else. Okay, yeah, he got beat twice in a row by Chris Weidman. One a knockout, the other one a leg break. But you can't call Anderson Silva a bum. I think if you're gonna talk garbage about a fighter like that, calling him a bum and they're no good and everything, you can in the context of for example, Brian Caraway. Oh, that guy's a bum. He always just wants to fight guys that are coming off of injuries, and he always avoids big fights. I kind of get that. Kinda. Not 100% necessarily, but, I kind of understand that. But to call one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time, a bum, I'd love for him for people that say that to go say that to Anderson Silva's face. Because Silva won't. Here's what Silva's going to do. Silva's not going to hit him. Silva's way too classy and nice to do that. He'll just laugh in their face and walk away. Maybe tell you, go check out UFC Fight Pass and just look at my past fights and you tell me if I'm a bum. Now have fun at your 9 to 5, barely over minimum wage job, bum. But that's the beautiful thing about social media. You can say whatever you want, whenever you want, to whoever you want, and it doesn't matter because you're behind a computer. Gotta love the internet. What are you gonna do? All right, so I was saying a legend is coming back. And I don't like it at all. BJ Penn announced his return from retirement today. Obviously, we saw the picture with Greg Jackson. We saw the picture with John Jones, Holly Holm, all those guys at Greg Jackson's. Actually, it was a video of John Jones saying, we're so happy to have BJ Penn back and all that. I don't want BJ Penn to come back. I still, in my mind, don't have that fight of the fight against Frankie Edgar in my head as the only thing I remember, or as the last memory I have of BJ Penn. I don't have that. I have all the other fights that he had that were just crazy. BJ Penn is a madman kind of fight. So he was actually on. Oh wow. Well, all right. Give credit where credit's due. He was on the MMA Hour today, and he said, I want to go, quote, I want to go get that 145-pound belt. Now pause you right there. No, BJ. No, By the way, have fun training with Greg Jackson when BJ Penn is notorious for hating the training. Remember when BJ Penn was dominant and he was just whooping on everybody, moving up and down weight classes, winning? He was talking about those training sessions being so crazy, so hard on him that when he got home he couldn't hold his kids. Then he stopped doing all that heavy training, and look what happened. Getting beat up by everybody. If he goes into Greg Jackson's with that attitude, he's losing for sure. But he said that this is the quote. I want to go get that 145-pound belt. That's definitely a huge motivation for me. I believe with Greg Jackson's help, I can get that done. And I believe that I'll be able to walk away as the only man with 3 titles in 3 weight divisions, end quote. Come on, man. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Honestly, to me, this screams, I need money. Mike Jarvis in the chat saying, I really hope Jackson can pull the plug on BJ anytime. I really hope so, too, because I think Greg Jackson would be smart enough to tell him, yeah, you don't have it anymore, dude. Let it go. You know, we have some fighters now that the era of the BJ Penn and the Matt Hughes and the Randy Couture's, that era of fighter is over. You have a much higher level fighter now. A lot of these young guys are going to be able to whoop on BJ Penn. A lot of them will. At 145, at 155, at 170, whatever way he wants to come back, supposedly 145, you know, a lot of these guys will be able to destroy him. They really will. And it honestly kills me to think that BJ Penn's going to come back. And first of all, he wants to fight Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz is going to, God, I hate to say it, but Nick Lentz is probably going to just run over him. Andrew Reed saying, no, it screams BJ is worried Spud Goblin's reputation will surpass his. I don't know. Maybe. You know what? Probably, especially if he wins that belt, the 155 belt against RDA, for sure. But he went on to say this, quote, I made sure to tell Greg, I let him know the other day that if I can't do this, Greg, in any way, shape, or form, you feel that BJ doesn't belong in the ring, please let me know. Please let me know. And he's very confident that we can get something done. With somebody like that who has so many champions himself, and who has done as well as he has in this sport, when he tells me that, I know you can go out and I know you can beat all these guys, it gives me a lot of confidence, end quote. So that makes me feel like, okay, Greg Jackson's going to tell him if he has it or not. And I really do hope that Greg Jackson tells him you don't have it. I honestly, I was not kidding when I said that I shed a tear for BJ Penn. I shed a tear for BJ Penn when he got beat up by Frankie. I really did. I was awful to watch. You could tell Frankie didn't want to do it either. Frankie felt awful doing it for sure. Now, whether or not the UFC's going to, come back. Yeah, here's the fight. Go for it. That's one thing. I don't know if they're ready to do that. They might. I mean, think about it. And here's the other thing. You know what? And I just remember this earlier today when I heard about this. The first thought I had was UFC 200. Big time payday. UFC 200, BJ Penn fighting at UFC 200. Getting a bunch of names on that card. UFC 200 with BJ Penn on there. BJ Penn would love to be on that card. Maybe the timing is that's what the timing is about. Maybe he wants to fight at UFC 200. I think that might be the biggest source. I really hope BJ doesn't need money. I don't think he does. I don't think he's ever really needed money. But I mean, look, if he comes back and he fights, I trust Greg Jackson to be able to know whether or not he's ready to come back and fight. So if he comes back and fights, I'm expecting BJ Penn to show up and do something. At least not get clobbered and destroyed like he did against Frankie. Because I'm not ready to watch him go through the Frankie Edgar thing again. I'm not at all. So let's hope he's coming back for the better, not for the worse. Andrew saying at least BJ didn't go to Ludwig. A lot of people saying that right now. That's a weird thing too. I mean, isn't it that when a champion loses, their coach ends up looking kind of bad? Nobody said anything about Javier Mendez. Nobody said anything about Ray Longo or Matt Serra. When Ronda got beat up, Edmund took a whooping. Mind you, he kind of deserved it. That what kind of in between round garbage was that he was spewing? You're doing fine. You're doing wonderful. No, she's not, dude. Tell her the truth. No kind of changes in the game plan whatsoever. Nothing. So Edman had it coming. Ludwig, I think Ludwig's probably he's probably a great striking coach, but as far as a head coach goes, I'm not sure. I've never made up my mind on Dwayne Ludwig. But as Andy always says, John Wayne Parr whooped on Ludwig when Ludwig was a name and John Wayne Parr wasn't. John Wayne Parr whooped him. Andrew is saying, may as well bring Paul Verlans for UFC 200. Hell, watch Royce Gracie end up at UFC 200. He won't. I hope he won't. Nah, they wouldn't do. No, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Jeez, I hope they wouldn't do that. Bellator already does that enough. Yep, and of course, Andy Ludwig was battered by JWP. Yep, 100%. All right, let's talk a little bit about UFC Boston. Just to run down very quickly on the results here. If this page would load up, there we go. First fight of the night on Fight Pass: Francisco Barroso beating Elvis Mutachik by decision. Then Rob Font TKOs Joey Gomez in the second round. Charles Rosa gets a decision over Kyle Bochniak. Ilir Latifi. Now here's the first little point I want to talk about. Ilir Latifi was in shape. I mean, he had abs. Usually he comes in pudgy. Looks like he had trouble making weight. No, he got in shape for this fight. He knocked out Sean O'Connell with some nasty punches. And he looks faster. He looks quicker, lighter on his feet. I think this version of Ilir Latifi is going to be able to make a run at 205. He's not going to win anything, but he's going to make a fun run, I think. After that, Paul Felder got a rear naked choke on Darren Cruikshank, his first submission of his career, and Paul Felder emotional after the fight, and rightly so. He was basically fighting for his job, as was Darren Cruikshank, and Darren Cruikshank probably likely done in the UFC. Nothing announced, of course, but more than likely. Paul Felder, he had, to me again, he was a little nervous. It almost seemed like he didn't want to pull the trigger, in my opinion. Usually we see him throw spinning this, spinning that. He didn't do a lot of that. He was very conservative, very, almost like he was afraid that he was going to get, spin kicked or spin fisted to knock out. And then when he finally hurt Darren Cruikshank, got the rear naked choke. So, and the next fight, I'm very impressed with this kid, Luke Sanders, to be able to hurt Maximo Blanco the way he did, and then and submit him on 2 weeks' notice. That's big time for a debut. That right there is a name. And he got a bonus, by the way. He deserved it. He got performance bonus for that. So this kid's 11-0 as a bantamweight. He fought in this fight as a featherweight, I believe. He fought at that weight. So for him to go down at 135, here we go. Possibly another big name at bantamweight. Another guy we can throw at Cruz, Dillashaw, the Fabers of the world, whatever. Mike Jarve saying Sanders looked real good. He looked fluid. He looked powerful. That's what I liked about him. He looked powerful but smart. We didn't see his power until he wanted you to see it, and that's what I liked about Sanders. So I believe he's a pretty young guy. No, 30 years old. 30 years old in the UFC. He has plenty of time to make a run right here at 135 or 145 if he decides to stay there. So big time debut. Finish as on the win. That's the second rear naked choke in a row. And then we get a third rear naked choke in a row. Charles Wade against Mehdi Baghdad. Completely expected. Mehdi is not ready for the UFC. He got this chance mostly because he got injured. And before his last fight, he wasn't able to fight. After that, Ed Herman and Tim Bosch fight at 205 pounds. Ed Herman lands a nasty knee on Tim. Knocks him out. Tim Bosch, who was already talking about, after this fight, I'm going to fight at 185, whatever. I'm going to move back down. Ed Herman calling out, not calling out, but saying, well, I'm going to stay at 205. Now that people are actually getting caught for cheating, for performance enhancing drugs, I can actually fight at this weight. So, Ed Herman predicting big things from himself. Now that people are getting busted for all kinds of stuff. Hell, Diego Brandao got busted for weed the other day. That's a weird one. Yoel Romero getting busted? Not weird at all. Not even at all. Oh, and then the other day, Neil Magny versus Hector Lombard was announced. Hector Lombard is serving his suspension for whatever he tested positive for. I don't remember exactly. And he's coming back. So I'm going to be very curious to see Hector Lombard's physique now that he has to be clean. They're going to be definitely, keep an extra eye on him for obviously for testing previously. Patrick Cote gets a decision, Patrick Cote gets a TKO win in the second round over Ben Saunders. I was expecting more from Ben Saunders, but he just couldn't handle Patrick Cote's strikes, shots from the top, on the ground. He just, Ben Saunders, second stint in the UFC, maybe not cut out for this kind of competition. Mind you, it's like a 2 or 3 fight win streak. That's done. All right, then Francisco Trinaldo versus Ross Pearson goes to decision. Trinaldo wins. That was a fight. That's about all I'm going to say about it. Travis Browne against Matt Mitrione. That was an issue. There's 2 eye pokes. First one was a pinky. The second one was a thumb that went into Matt Mitrione's eye. Now, if everyone saw, Matt Mitrione, after he had that thumb shoved in his eye, Matt Mitrione falls back and kind of holding, kind of showing that he's hurt. Ref doesn't stop it. The ref was Gary Foreman. Ref doesn't stop it. Travis Browne comes forward. By the way, knowing that he had poked him in the eye, he still came forward. So that's a little bit of sportsmanship. I mean, in my opinion, sportsmanship-ish kind of thing, right? Meanwhile, if you're in a fight, just like they say, you go to the ref stops you. And so that's probably what he was doing. Andrew Reed, not a fan of the ref. I agreed. I wasn't either. He didn't warn, he didn't take a point from Travis Browne. I believe that was warranted. At least take away a point. Because that thumb was bad. That was horrible. I mean, if you see Matt Mitrione's eye after the fight, that thing blew up. I mean, it exploded, especially because after he poked it, Travis Browne started to target it. And that's when it blew up the way it did. So now he gets the TKO win in the third round. He gets a finish over Matt Mitrione. I don't think it should count. I think it's one of those things they need to go back and look at and be like, nah, that we can't allow that kind of stuff. You're sending a message to everybody. Hey, you can get away with the eye poke. You can get it with that was an eye gouge. That was a gouge. That was awful. So that makes me wonder: is Travis Browne a dirty fighter? Was it a dirty tactic or legit accident? And it's is it right? Is here's the thing? John Jones joked around on Twitter saying, "Hey, look, someone's using my technique." He was laughing about it, obviously making a joke. It was actually kind of funny. But John Jones does that too, where when he's jumping backwards, he sticks his hand out with his thumbs out. The fight before that, Herb Dean, who was reffing Trinaldo versus Pearson, he warned Francisco Trinaldo to close his hand like 8 times. Just a bunch of times. He had to warn him. He had to tell him, hey, close your hand. Close your hand. I'm not going to tell you again. Close your hand. Now, I look, in the moment, Matt Mitrione's coming forward, kind of lunging forward at Travis Browne. I can see it being as accidental. But it doesn't, it doesn't mean that, and Mike Jarf saying accidental as well. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the ref didn't do his, that the ref isn't a little bit at fault here. After a second eye poke, you need to take a point away. You really do. At least you send a message like you're not going to get away with this stuff. Andrew Reed on the chat saying, funny how the thumb poke was right after Mitrione rocked him. Mitrione did hurt him a little bit, that's for sure. I believe that as well. But it just sucks for Mitrione. Last fight on his contract, and it goes like that. Let's hope the Fertittas have a little bit of a take the negotiations in context that his last fight went the way it did, because that's just crappy. All right, the co-main event: Eddie Alvarez versus Anthony Pettis. Eddie Alvarez takes it via split decision. That's how you beat Anthony Pettis. You grind him. You take away his space. You don't let him get any of his fancy striking techniques off, and you win. That's just how you win. Was it a boring fight? I guess, kind of. I was expecting a flashy, like a brawl. Flashy strikes from Anthony Pettis and Eddie Alvarez coming in with bombs. But Eddie Alvarez knows he needs to get smart. In the UFC, you got to be smart. In Bellator, you can go wild, go crazy, have wars with Michael Chandler and all that if you want to. In the UFC, where, a 2 or 3 fight losing streak can get you cut, or one loss can take you out completely out of the title run, you got to fight smart. So he fought smart, and he won, and that's what it is. Now, it makes me wonder about Anthony Pettis, because Anthony Pettis seemed like he fought with no confidence. I'm not saying he's done. I'm not saying that his career's over, because it's definitely not. He's young. He's 28. But he looked like he had no confidence. He didn't look nervous, but he looked like he couldn't pull the trigger. He looked like a younger Donald Cerrone in the first round, starting off really slow, and then seemed like he had no confidence. And then once the fight, he started getting Eddie Alvarez started to shove him to the cage, to wrestle him, take him down, all that. It looked like he had, he kind of lost his groove. He was look, Alvarez is smart. Never let Pettis get into any kind of rhythm. Mind you, Anthony Pettis did land quite a few kicks that hurt, and you could tell they hurt. Anthony Pettis is known for his kicks. Now, even during the broadcast, Joe Rogan was saying that Pettis is going to use his kicks. Eddie Alvarez is going to use his hands. Turns out Eddie Alvarez uses his wrestling and didn't, basically canceled out Anthony Pettis' kicks. So good luck kicking a guy that's on you. Andrew on the chat saying RDA broke Pettis. And that's very possible. We've seen a lot of fighters after they lose, especially people that their identity included, I'm a champion. I'm the UFC champion. That's my identity. That's who I am. Once he lost to RDA, especially the way he did, I'm sure that's messed with him, and he's, like I said, he's a younger guy. He's 28. He knows nothing. Not I'm saying that he doesn't know nothing, but he's got 28 years on this planet, yet you basically know nothing, my opinion. So I think he's gonna need some kind of sports psychologist, some kind of mental coach, someone to get him past that wall and see if he can regain some of that confidence he had when he was, killing people. Submitting Benson Henderson for the belt. Kicking Donald Cerrone in the liver so hard that Cerrone just folds. Will we see Anthony Pettis back in the form? I don't know. I don't know. We certainly will never see him on a card with his brother again, though. Remember last time? That's when he lost his belt. His little brother was fighting on the same card, and his little brother got lost, and I'm sure that was messing with Pettis. Psychology, the mental part of a fighter is very important. If you're sitting there thinking about your little brother just got beat, and you're walking to the cage like that's not a good deal. All right, let's get to the main event, the bantamweight title fight between TJ Dillashaw and Dominick Cruz. Of course, we all know the story. Dominick Cruz didn't fight for about 4 years. Actually, he fought 1 minute in 4 years. And real quick, Mike Jarvis making that point that, and it's exactly what I was thinking. If you blitz Pettis and stay on him, it's a wrap. Yep, RDA did it. Eddie Alvarez did it. Eddie Alvarez to a lesser degree, but he did, close the space and basically leave zero space between them. So that's a good point. The blitzing things what RDA did for sure. Anyway, so Dominick Cruz against TJ Dillashaw. Cruz was injured for quite a while, was stripped of the belt because of the injury, wasn't able to make fights against Barao. And so now he's back. And we couldn't have seen, in my opinion, a better performance from Dominick Cruz. A lot of people had the fight very close. I didn't have it as close as a lot of people did. I thought it was pretty cut and clear that Dominick Cruz won the fight. He got out of the way. TJ Dillashaw was sitting on his punches, trying to knock him out with one hand, trying to make dents in Dominick Cruz, when Dominick Cruz was just literally dancing around. By the time TJ Dillashaw sent a punch, Dominick Cruz was gone. And then when TJ Dillashaw did get a punch off in time, Dominick Cruz dodged it like the Matrix. Like a centimeter away from the hand or from the kick, and he landed it. Now, TJ Dillashaw did land quite a few head kicks. Obviously, Dominick Cruz would go towards his right leg, and Dillashaw took advantage of that a few times, not too many. Dominick Cruz got takedowns and everything. It was just, it's the kind of fight that you expect from Dominick Cruz. I thought it should have been unanimous. A lot of people don't believe me at all, but a lot of people are saying it was a super close fight. And look, let's just agree on that. It was a super close fight. I still don't think TJ had a shot. I believe TJ Dillashaw lost that fight he lost that fight, clearly. TJ says he didn't, he rewatched it. And here's the funny part. Here's how I know that TJ doesn't really know whether he won or not. If you guys remember during the fight, if you were at all near Twitter or social media, everyone complained that Joe Rogan was talking about, Joe Rogan is just super biased for TJ because he's friends with TJ and he's friends with Dwayne. He's super biased towards TJ. TJ Dillashaw watched his own fight on the flight home from Boston, okay, and said that Joe Rogan was biased towards Cruz. Are you kidding me? Everybody was saying, oh, Rogan's friends with TJ. He's leaning towards TJ. TJ Dillashaw watches the fight. Here's the commentary. Oh, Joe was biased towards Cruz. Get out of here. TJ Dillashaw does not know if he won or not. He can say whatever he wants. Of, oh, no, I still think I won. No, I don't think you do. I don't think you know. I don't think you know whether you won or not. And Mike on the chat making a really good point. TJ got frustrated. He definitely did. It gets frustrating when you're throwing one punch, you miss, and you eat 7. Cruz was landing combinations like nobody's business. There was like at least I counted at least when I started paying attention how many combos or how many punches he threw in a combo. He was throwing 6-7 punch combos. It was amazing. Honestly, Cruz could not have fought better coming off the multiple knee injuries. So after he wins, he gets a split decision win, gets his belt back, and he's limping. And everyone's like, oh no, the knee. Turns out, well, according to Cruz, this is important. According to Dominick Cruz, it's not at the knee. It's he's plantar fasciitis. It's a tendon on the foot. Says that he heard it pop. It shouldn't be a big deal. He'll be fine. It's not the knee. The important part is, according to him, it's not the knee, right? So who do we get next? Who's next to fight for the title? What really, really bothered me was everyone is saying Faber is a shoo-in to fight for the title. I do not want to see that at all. What I do want to see, and I hope happens, especially if Dominick Cruz is sit out for a little while with that foot injury, I want to see TJ Dillashaw against Uriah Faber. Winner gets Cruz. I think that's fair. I think that's the perfect setup. Have Faber fight Dillashaw. If Faber gets past Dillashaw, all right, dude, go for it. But I don't think he should get a title shot off of beating Frankie Saenz, who Saenz, you could argue, could have beat him in that fight. If you remember, Faber hurt Frankie Saenz, and then he just went after him and gassed out. And Frankie Saenz held his own in that fight. So I'd rather see Faber against Dillashaw and the winner getting a title shot. I would put my money on Dillashaw, but now that he's saying all stuff like I still think I won, and Joe was biased towards Cruz. I don't know if I don't know if he'd beat Faber, but I think if Faber gets past Dillashaw, I think he deserves a title shot. And then before he beat Frankie Saenz by decision, he lost to Frankie Edgar. He beat Francisco Rivera. He submitted him. He submitted Alex Caceres before that. Got TKO by Renan Barão. Faber is the guy that falls flat in big fights, and he's proven it over and over again. Renan Barão, Frankie Edgar, Renan Barão twice. Lost his last fight with Dominick Cruz. Lost to Jose Aldo. Lost to Mike Thomas Brown twice. Meanwhile, the fights that he should win, he wins. Menjivar, Scott Jorgensen, Yuri Alcantara, Michael McDonald, Alex Caceres, Francisco Rivera, Frankie Saenz. Saenz, being a closer fight than everyone thinks. So no, I don't want to see Cruz's Faber. And Mike, you're right. Cruz will be even better next fight, for sure, 100%. I mean, kidding me? The amount of confidence that Cruz has now, especially now. I'm thinking about it. If you're Cruz, you're sitting at home right now, ice on your foot, sitting back with your little, tiny dog, probably eating some good food, watching a replay of your fight or whatever he likes to do on his off time. You're probably sitting there going, I came back after being gone, after having multiple surgeries on both knees, after fighting only 1 minute in 4 years. I came back and beat the current champ, a younger guy, a guy that they said was a copy of me. By the way, TJ Dillashaw showed none of the footwork. None of the footwork. He sat and was flat-footed the entire time. But if you're Cruz, again, you beat a younger guy Guys supposed to be better. Guys supposed to have the same footwork, have the same skills, and you beat them, in my opinion, pretty handedly. Oh, Mike, that's cold. TJ is the male Misha Tate, meaning me. I'm sure a lot of women think TJ is very attractive, and good for him. But he means he means like the gatekeeper, except for the fact that TJ's actually been champ. And that's cold, man. TJ's the male Misha Tate. Oh man, and Misha Tate, poor Misha Tate. Well, not really poor. I don't feel bad for her at all. She's always like, I always notice this, and just to talk about football a little bit. Misha Tate fancies herself a Seattle Seahawks fan. They got beat this last weekend. They got their butts kicked for a first half of football by Carolina, and then made a comeback, but obviously lost by 10 points. We're able to finish off the job. Every win that the Seahawks had, Misha Tate's tweeting, yeah, Seattle, woo, 12th man, blah, 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 blah. As they're getting beat down, nothing. They finally scored their first touchdown, and she goes, oh, yeah, here we go. After the game, nothing. To me, honestly, and this is not Misha Tate hate, so relax. This is just my opinion, because she puts herself out there, and what she puts out there is what I have to work with. Misha Tate is fake. I don't care what anyone says. That chick likes to pander. She panders to a lot of people. So hate if you want to. I don't take Misha Tate as ever being real, ever. I think she just panders for popularity's sake. Hey, look, good for her. It gets her paid and gets everyone on Instagram. Everyone on Instagram and everyone on Twitter tweeting her, thinking they have a chance with Misha Tate. Oh, Misha, you look gorgeous today. That's amazing. Oh, your hair looks great. Totally not looking at your cleavage at all. All those guys that do that, by the way, that just daily do that, I find funny. Andy saying on the chat, Cruz is too intellectual for anyone at the division. He will outsmart them all, 100%. Thank you for reminding me. That's the other point I wanted to make. Cruz showed an intelligence that TJ Dillashaw could never even dream of coming to, at all. By the way, that thing where, remember during the fight, Rogan was saying, "Oh, Cruz is taking deep breaths. Cruz is taking deep breaths." Apparently, and Cruz explained it after the fight. He does it all the time. That's his reset. He does it on purpose. Can you imagine? Joe Rogan didn't know about it, and Joe Rogan studies for this stuff. Okay. Can you imagine if you're TJ Dillashaw in the first round, halfway through, Cruz is in front of you, he takes a deep breath, and you get a little confident? You start sitting on it. Oh, that's mean, Andrew. That's mean. I'll say what you said in a second, but still. If you're TJ Dillashaw, you're sitting on your punches trying to knock out Cruz, thinking he's tired. I'm gonna catch him. Turns out he was just resetting. He was fine. His cardio was even better than yours. Man, that's an explosion in the mind right there. Andrew on the chat saying Misha has a face like a bag of squash frogs. I never seen a bag of squash frogs, but it sounds unpleasant and not fun to look at. So that's just mean, man. All right. Last thing I want to talk about here before we move on, or before I end the show. At the end of the fight, during the post-fight interview, Cruz took a little jab at Mr. Ken Florian. Kenny Florian, of course, everyone knows in the last week or so, he's been blocking half of Twitter. He got busted. He got in trouble for plagiarism. In one of his latest articles, he actually plagiarized pretty much word for word quite a few lines from an article from somebody else explaining TJ and the TJ Dillashaw and Dominick Cruz fight. Well, he got busted. He's been suspended from Fox Sports. He was supposed to be on the FS1 broadcast with John Anik this last weekend in Boston. He was in Boston. He was suspended, but he was still in Boston. I believe he's actually from that area, so I think he's just home. He got busted for it, and so now he got in trouble. Whatever. Real quick. My boy H was listening earlier, or is listening still. Yeah, it was earlier. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you tuning in, H. H, if you guys don't remember H. Dot from the ULI, my co-host, homeboy made quite a few of his dreams come true. And so he's he don't have time for the podcast very much anymore, but I'm very happy for the guy. So congratulations on all your on achieving your dreams there, H. But he tweets over about the Matt Barnes thing, saying, the fine for the comments were equally as stupid as making the comments. Hashtag Matt Barnes. Hashtag real G's move in silence. That's very true, man. If you're gonna whoop on somebody, don't say nothing, just do it. Anyway, so back to Ken Flo here. So Kenny Florian suspended. I actually listened to his podcast today. He has his podcast with John Anik, and they started up the show with Kenny Florian actually addressing the plagiarism controversy. You can go download the show, listen to the show on SoundCloud.com/Anik and Florian. That's SoundCloud.com/Anik and Florian. And I recommend you do, especially to hear the first part of it. So this is what Ken Flo said. He said he doesn't write articles regularly, which is obviously he's a TV guy for the most part, and he does podcasts. He says his intent when it came to the Dillashaw versus Cruz fight was to explain how both fighters fight. And that's when he came across that article explaining how Cruz and Dillashaw fight. And this is what he says about the quotes that he took. Quote, they weren't actually my quotes. I thought that they were... he says, they weren't actually my quotes, and I thought that they were mine. I inserted them into the article, and it was a terrible oversight, end quote. So, I mean, to me, that doesn't say very much, but he moves on saying, quote, as soon as I recognized that, I wanted to address it immediately, end quote. He says he was the one that went to FoxSports.com to report the error. He also says he reached out to the author of the article, let him know what happened, and apologized for it. So, and again, I encourage you to go listen to it yourself, because he sounds genuine to me, but... a lot of people obviously didn't believe him, still don't. But basically what he's saying is that he had written the quotes in his notes, probably forgot to put on there who they came from. They thought they were his quotes, probably thought, that's genius. I can't believe I came up with that, and they wrote it down. So they thought they were his quotes, and it turns out they weren't, and it was a terrible oversight. He also said, quote, it's a shame that people perhaps lost some credibility with me, end quote. Look, man. And there's bigger things you can lie about and plagiarize about. And there's been, journalists who've been, blacklisted from journalism forever, like big time journalists. I mean, who's the most recent guy? Who's the dude on TV? I know Mike or Andrew will know this. Recently on TV, he said that he was in Iraq and his chopper was getting shot at. I think it's NBC News. Brian Williams? I want to say Brian Williams. I think it's Brian Williams. Let me find out before I start, throwing out misinformation out there. Yeah, I think it's Brian Williams. Yeah, Brian Williams. So Brian Williams said that he was in, he was in Iraq. I think it was Iraq, and he got his helicopter got shot at and all that. Let's see, here it is. And this is a quote from a Washington Post article from September 2015, September 21st, 2015. He says this, or this is what it says, and this is just the details of why he got in trouble. Williams was suspended without pay for 6 months in February following a nightly news segment in which he exaggerated details of his travels in a military helicopter during the Iraq War in 2003. The story generated a cascade of other stories in which Williams allegedly punched up various details to heighten the drama surrounding him. The deluge turned him into a social media meme for dishonesty, which is true. So he was suspended, and he actually went back to TV work in, I want to say in September. But not back on nightly news. He was the face of nightly news for 11 years, and to lie about something like that, now mind you, that's not plagiarism, but that's exactly what they do to plagiarists in the news. If you get caught, you get blacklisted. And he's lucky he was able to come back. A lot of people have never come back. A lot of people that got busted for plagiarizing or making things up have never come back. But Andrew Reed on chat saying, show me a single journalist who has consistently written original copy. There aren't any. They all plagiarize. I gotta agree with you there, man. It's this what I keep calling the new journalism. It's not, and it's the problem I had when I got into it, and then I got right out when I realized it's not an honest thing. It's not an art, and it's not a public duty. To me, I always thought journalism was a public duty. It's a public service. You're reporting the news so the people are informed. You're reporting the news to keep government and to keep people that are in charge and officials, to keep them honest, hold them accountable. And when I got into it and I realized it was a business, I couldn't handle that. I got out. That was hard. Honestly, it's hard for someone that believes in journalism so much the way I do, or did, I guess. I do believe in the purest form of journalism, right? And where there's no money, where it's not about the money, it's not about the clicks, the likes, the views, whatever, or the newspapers you sell. It's about reporting. It's about holding people accountable, holding leadership accountable, holding the government accountable, telling the truth, telling both sides of it. So Andrew, you're right. Everyone plagiarizes now. Very few, if any, are original copies anymore. And it's all about them clicks, man. Now Mike's saying about Kenflo says you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I do. I really do. No, like I said, listen to the podcast. It's at the very start of it. SoundCloud.com/Anik and Florian. It's the very start, so if you don't want to listen to the whole episode, that's fine, but seriously, listen to the first few minutes of it. He explains it. To me, he sounds genuine. He really does sound sorry. So, me personally, I'm giving him a pass. I hope, if he does it again, of course, he's, then we know it's a habit, but, I'm giving him a pass, man. Besides, he's a martial artist first. He didn't do martial arts thinking, I'm going to go write articles after my career's over, And so, yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be back. He'll be fine. He did go off on that block button though. If you even mentioned it, you were blocked immediately. I know like 6 or 7 people that I follow that follow me on Twitter that got blocked by Kenflo. It was pretty funny. Anyway, again, please go listen to it. So you tell me on Twitter. Let me know at elaw31 what you think of his explanation, and whether you think it's genuine or not. I do. I happen to think it is. So go listen to it. SoundCloud.com/Anik. ANIK and spelled out AND Florian FLORIAN. And let me know what you think, because I'm really curious to see what people's different opinions are on his apology and his explanation, because to me it sounded genuine. I completely accept it, and of course he's gonna be gone for a little bit, but when he comes back, I'm not gonna sit there thinking with a bit of a bias, thinking he's lying again, and maybe he's gonna do it again. I don't want to listen to this guy. He lied before. And I know and Mike's right. Front Row Brian is giving him all kinds of garbage for it. He's talking a lot of trash to him about it. But Front Row Brian's Front Row Brian. I'm not, honestly, I enjoy reading Front Row Brian's tweets on, and stuff he says is kind of funny. He does break quite a few things as far as MMA news, especially when it comes to UFC. He does break quite a few stories. But if you followed FRB for a while, he's just a fun troll. That's kind of what it is. So. But yeah, he's getting all kinds of garbage for it, but it won't matter. Kenflo will be back on TV sooner or later and be back to doing his thing. So no UFC event this weekend. There is World Series of Fighting. The next UFC is next weekend, Saturday, January 30th. I will be in Temecula, California for a Spartan race, but it does start in the morning, so I should be done by noon. Plenty of time to get back to the hotel and find a nice Buffalo Wild Wings or a bar somewhere showing the fights. Main event, Anthony Johnson against Ryan Bader, basically fighting for a title shot at this point, for the winner of DC versus Jones, or basically Jones. We're all counting out DC now. It's kind of, imagine if DC beats Jones though. That'd be crazy. The co-main event of that card, Josh Barnett versus Ben Rothwell, Yuri Alcantara against Jimmy Rivera, also on the main card, and rounding out the main card on Fox, Sage Northcutt against Andrew Holbrook, Tarek Safdie against Ellenberger on the prelims there. Rafael Natal against Kevin Casey. I'll tell you something about that Kevin Casey fight against Natal. Kevin Casey's going to try and just wrestle him and blanket him to a win. Dustin Ortiz against Wilson Heiss. Alex Caceres against Macio Fulton. Macio Fulton's still in the UFC. Jeez. Okay. And then, by the way, if you don't remember Alex Caceres, it's Bruce Leroy. Fun fighter to watch. Unfortunately, he got choked out by Faber last time I saw him. Matt Dwyer, Randy Brown in the prelims, along with 4 other guys nobody knows. So that's what we got to look forward to. So if you want to see some free MMA this weekend, World Series of Fighting, make sure you check that out. Although I'm not a fan of their prelims online. That's actually kind of awful. Oh, man. I think this is the longest show I've ever done. We went an hour and 46 minutes, maybe 47. I hate to break it to you guys, but it doesn't look like we're going to have a Keyboard Warriors tonight. My two co-hosts are out doing personal stuff. So I apologize for that. Hopefully next week we can get one, or maybe sometime later this week we can get together and do a show. I'll keep you guys all updated on Twitter about it. But as far as tonight, yeah, more than likely we're not going to have a Keyboard Warriors. Alright, well that's going to do it for Breaking the Law tonight. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to follow me on Spreaker, as well as on Twitter at ELAW31. That's ELAW31. I'm back tomorrow night. That's right. I'm been doing this daily now, Monday through Friday. So I'll be back tomorrow night for another episode of Breaking the Law. Until then, enjoy your night, day, depending on where you are. Don't take life so seriously, but live it life to the fullest, and every other cliche I can think of. Good night, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.